I was the first line in the first reading. They were grumbling. Like that word, grumbling. I had a nurse once in the hospital, and she had a little sign right here, and it said, "No whining allowed." So I said, what kind of care I'm going to get here today? I'm dating myself. Some of you might remember Jackie Mason, Ed Sullivan Show, way back when he was a Jewish comedian. And he not only made people laugh, but he had a certain wisdom to his stories. What people don't know is that Jackie Mason was an ordained rabbi, but he didn't want to become a rabbi. He wanted to be a comedian. And this is one of his stories. This is about Mr. Finkelstein. And Mr. Finkelstein is suffering pains in his chest and is rushed to the finest hospital in America. Where else but Mass General? So for 7 days, he's receiving treatment. And then without explanation, he checks out of the hospital. And he goes back to his neighborhood in New York, the Lower East Side, to an inferior hospital. So the doctor there says, "What was wrong with Mass General? Was it the doctors? Did they find what was wrong with you?" He said, "The doctors were outstanding. They were geniuses. I can't complain." "What about the nurses? Were they attentive? Were they distant?" "The nurses were angels. I can't complain." "How about the food? Too little? Was it the food?" "The meals were wonderful. They tasted like heaven. I can't complain." So, Mr. Finkelstein, why did you leave one of the greatest hospitals in the world to come here? And Finkelstein gives them a big smile, and he says, "Because here I can complain." What brought that up is the complaints in the desert. I can see Finkelstein taking his place with all of those people in Israel, all complaining. They're complaining about the water, they're complaining about the food, they're complaining about their starving to death. Not that you can blame them, but you have to realize that they were once slaves. They are now free. They were given freedom to adore God as they wished, and they were being formed as a people, and they're grumbling. So, and in any case, God decides to give them some food. And what is always hidden in the Hebrew doesn't always come out in the English. So he sends manna from heaven. So when they saw the stuff, they said, "What is this stuff?" And "what is this stuff?" is translated as manna. So manna is, what is this stuff, you see? So I think we should take and listen to their grumbling. Because when people grumble, we really should listen to them, don't you think? They have something to say to us. And what it says to me is that there's always something. You know, I had a friend who said, "I want that written on my tombstone." There's always something, you see? And that always casts a shadow on us, this grumbling and stuff. There's always some anxiety, right? Some worry. Something that you haven't done, you should have done. We should never have left Egypt. What were we thinking? There's an unpaid bill. There's a heartache that keeps coming back. I want my flesh pot back in Egypt. I like it. They have onions and garlics and leeks there. There's always some hurt that is still burning, some bitterness. Moses, you gave us freedom, but right now, we're not happy right here. There's wisdom in that. In every satisfaction, there's an awareness of our limitations. In every success, there is nothing perfect. And it's true, no smile will ever take away every tear. We embrace loneliness because it is so powerful. And that'll always be a part of life. The gospel is not a prosperity gospel. So you have a right to grumble, all right? But remember their mistake in the desert. 2 mistakes. They forgot who gifted them. They forgot that they were dealing with God, all provident and all merciful. They forgot about that. And they forgot where they were headed. They forgot their destination. They forgot their purpose of being in the desert. As long as you don't forget those things, and as long as you don't get on people's nerves too much, you can grumble a little. But you're gifted from God, and my friends, there's a purpose to your life. The gospel is a different misunderstanding. It's typical St. John's gospel. Here, the people Jesus had just multiplied all the loaves. They were deeply impressed with all the bread and the fish and all of that. They were deeply impressed with all of that. And so they go to Jesus, and they want more bread. Jesus sees through this, and all he says to them basically is, you want a bakery? I'm offering you myself. Are you happy with that, is the gospel. I want your love. You're coming here because you want to eat. I am here because I am offering myself to you. So that is the question. Jesus in the gospel today, for whatever reason, you leave church here today thinking of our Lord's question to you like the question to the crowd that was looking for bread. Am I not enough for you? Am I not enough for you? I am the bread of life. Believe me. God, who brought the universe into being as a parent conceives a child in love, means that you are not insignificant. You are not alone. This is what Jesus has to offer. We're here because someone, capital S, willed us into being. Someone wanted you to exist. There's someone who knows your innermost thoughts even before you think about them. There is someone who values who you are forever. There is someone whose breath you breathe, into whose arms you rest. Someone that connects you to one another and to the transcendent. That is what Jesus has to offer. Doesn't it more than material things, don't you think? So, it would be a disservice to leave you only in the company of our dear Mr. Finkelstein. What happens when you take Jesus' message seriously? What happens when you take all of this stuff and it enters here? I am the bread of life. He who believes in me shall never die. He who eats me will never thirst. What happens when you take this stuff and it really settles in? I'll give you an example. This lady is talking about her dad in a very beautiful way. She said, he enjoyed life. He had faith. And I think he enjoyed life because he had faith. He knew certain simple truths, and they gave shape to his life, my dad. He was Catholic, and he was proud of it. He prayed. And in so many ways, it was very important to him. He clutched his rosary, my dad did, and you could see that it gave him strength. You see that it did something for him. My dad never said why or how God was there, holding him by the hand, knowing that he could face whatever life would bring. He became agitated only once, when he could no longer remember his prayers. And his last words, my dad, were, "Pray for me." See, this is what happens when this stuff sinks in. And she says, my dad gave us something precious, not money. Here, read bread or possessions. He never had much of those, nor did they occupy much space in his mind. He gave us ideals. He gave us pride in who we were. And he taught us how to love. You've met people like that, haven't you? So look for them. They're the only living proof on God's good earth that the gospel has become effective, if you want, you see. So, you have the choice of grumbling through life or of receiving what Christ wants to give you himself. Listen to the Gospel of St. John again, in another verse. If a man loves me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we'll come to him, and we will make our home within him. That's what happens when you take the person of Jesus for real in your life. He settles in, and he makes his home within you.